Hut, hut, fight!
All right, what is up, Utah fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest, and today we are talking Utah versus Colorado. Before we do so, I do want to touch a little bit on last week's matchup. Obviously, I'm sure just like me, Utah versus BYU is still on a lot of your minds. I just want to kind of go through um, the grades and the performances. They're, in the heat of the moment, and especially right after the game, you don't have all the information. So taking a day or two and now actually looking at the analysis of the entire game with a little perspective should be pretty good. So let's take, 5-10 minutes here. I'm not going to draw it out too long, but I do want to look at the BYU game before we get into the Utah Colorado game. But again, this is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest. Like the video, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, how you're feeling about Colorado, how you feel about the BYU game post game. It is on to the next game, but I do just want to discuss the actual grades and the performances. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're a Utah fan, we put out a pregame and a postgame every week for Utah's matchup to give you a great in-depth analysis and make you feel extremely prepared about what's going to go on in the game. Just as an example, in the BYU-Utah game, I had Utah winning, but I had the score 27-24. I know a lot of people are predicting a huge win for Utah, and that's not what I saw in the data, and that's, and you factor in the home field. So if you do want a good perspective and you're a Utah fan, you want something that's a little not super biased, there is going to be some bias. I'm a Utah fan, but if you want something that's not super biased, I feel like this is a good place to get it. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in, guys. Talking about the passing game to get started, we got Devin Dampier, 43 dropbacks, 37 attempts, 20 completions. So right out the gate, I mean, the clear, obvious thing to look at is a 54.1% completion percentage. Really low. Like Devin Dampier is a guy that averages, 72, 73 completion percentage. So to be almost 20 points under average explains just how tough of a night this was passing. I know his overall offensive grade is a 75.7 and his passing grade is a 74.4, but I don't think we quite see that in the numbers. To have a 54.1% completion percentage and go along with that 6.1 yards per attempt, that's not a great combo, right? Super low yards per attempt and super low completion percentage. Usually if your completion percentage is that low, you want a very high yards per attempt, right? Like even if we move over to average depth of target, 11.1, so that's respectable, but still doesn't explain such a low completion percentage. Even adjusted for drops, which we did have 2 drops, it's a 68.8%, which usually adjusted, you see an average of maybe 75% adjusted for most quarterbacks. So still quite low. He threw for 14 first downs. And I know the grade doesn't look that bad. And he did have some plays, especially on those last few drives. He threw some nice passes. He gave some jump balls. But even you go over here, I mean, he did go 2 TDs, 1 INT. Like, don't get me wrong, Devin didn't have the worst night ever, but I don't think this grade is, um, you know, reflecting how the night actually went. He had 1 big time throw, 2 turnover worthy plays, so a 1-to-2 ratio. It's not what you want to see. Again, Devin didn't have the worst performance of his career. In total, he went for almost 300 yards. He did move the ball a lot. I think the story of the night, whether it was passing, whether it was running, whatever it was, we just did not get the ball in the end zone. Really, guys, like I mentioned in the post-game breakdown after the BYU game, we had more than 100 yards extra on top of what they had, and we still lost by 3 points. We had some, ill-advised, according to a lot of people, fourth down conversion attempts, which, I agreed with some of them. I didn't agree with all of them. But then on top of that, we could not move the ball. That's why we kept having to go for it on fourth down, because we'd be out there and we just could not finish drives. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. And then let's go ahead and move on to the rushing game, just because I think that's the natural flow of things. So moving over to the rushing game, you see here, guys, 34 attempts rushing, 243 yards, 7.1 yards a carry. At the surface level, it looks like a fantastic night rushing, and really it was. I mean, you can't average 7.1 yards a carry without having a wonderful rushing game. But I do want us to take a next level look at this because it is not the entire story. So Daniel Bray had basically half of these rushing yards, right? Who went off. Let's be super clear. Daniel Bray, 10 carries, 121 yards. His long was 49 yards, just monster night. 4 carries of 10 plus yards, 3 carries of 15 plus yards. Talk about a coming out party. Like everyone's been talking about him for a couple weeks, but that was just wow. Like superstar on the field, super impressive. But I would also say the as good as these numbers look at the surface level, take one step back and look. Between Wayshawn Parker and Nakari Rogers, we only had 9 carries. Wayshawn Parker went for 2 yards, or Nakari Rogers had 2 yards on his 1 carry. Not sure why he only had 1 carry all night. Very odd to me. He's a guy that usually gets more carries than Wayshawn, and he had 1 and Wayshawn had 8. Very, very confusing on what happened there. I would love if anyone has any context, drop that below. I would love to hear it. And Wayshawn had 8 carries, but only went for 2.9 yards. So between the two of them on 9 carries, they had 25 rushing yards. I mean, that's well below 3 yards a carry. I mean, that's like 2.5, 2.6 off the top of my head. That's pretty rough. That is not what you want to see. Maybe 2.7. Anyways, the rushing game, it was weird. We didn't seem to feel confident or want to run between the tackles, even though the vast majority of this game, it was a close game. And you can see we ran a ton with Devin Dampier, 81 rushing yards. So I guess in total, they're saying Devin went for over 300 yards. So 224 passing yards and 81 rush yards. I think, what's it called? ESPN had a different number, so that's a little unique for their numbers to be that off. Usually it's a couple yards maybe, but 81 to 224. So we supposedly went for over 300 yards. So, and that explains why the grade is so high. But again, we could not finish the drives, and some of that has to go on the quarterback, right? You can't say that that's not at least somewhat on the quarterback. So moving on, also Bird Ficklin got involved, 3 carries for 16 yards. Let's take a look at our receivers, guys. Our receivers, a lot of passing yards for Utah, 224, not crazy, but for Utah, it's a lot. Let's check out the targets here. Ryan Davis, 66 yards, 7 catches. Dallin Bentley, 65 yards, 4 catches. Both those guys made some key plays for Utah. JJ Buchanan, absolutely, and Larry Simmons deserve shout outs. Those guys stepped up as contested catch guys and made some plays. Larry Simmons had that one awesome catch up the sideline where he just jumps and rips it out of the air. JJ Buchanan had that. He almost had both of his contested catch targets. Like, Jason Beck, I really hope you continue to get this guy involved. One, we're from the same high school in Las Vegas, Coronado High School. But then 2, this kid's a monster. I mean, that he almost had the first contested catch target that he got, but it did get broken up. But then on the second one, man, that was a crazy play. I mean, the corner is pulling in the ball, and JJ Buchanan just manhandles him, reaches in, pulls the ball out of his hands, and comes down with the catch. That was nuts. I mean, that was a crazy play. And not to mention, I'm pretty sure he drew quite a few penalties, right? It says 3 targets. I can think of at least 1 penalty that he drew. I wonder if that's a stat in here. Does it show? I don't think it shows if you drew a penalty. It just shows if you got a penalty. That'd probably be worth adding in here. But either way, a pretty good night by the receiving room. But you can see again, Wayshawn Parker, only 1 target, 1 catch for -1 yards. We really did not get our running backs involved whatsoever the entire game. So, yeah, that's kind of the story there. Moving over to another kind of low point of the night, it's going to be the pass blocking. So, pass blocking, guys, a rough go for Utah. These grades don't look that bad, but again, that's why I don't always worry too much about the grades. I want to show you guys something here. Now, we did drop back to throw a lot, right? 43 opportunities, right? 43 dropbacks. But you see this, guys, 3 pressures by Spencer Fano. That explains why he is such a low grade. He allowed 3 pressures, guys. Just to give you some context there, I don't think he's allowed 3 pressures all season, and he allowed 3 pressures in that BYU game. That is nuts. And Tanoa Togiai allowed a pressure, and I don't think he's allowed any pressures. He's allowed 1 pressure all year, something like that. Caleb Lomu allowed 2, Jaron Kump allowed 2, Michael Mokofisi 2. And just to give you guys an idea, 1 pressure a game is not good. It's not terrible, but it's not good. So if you're at 2 and 3, I mean, that is a high number. That is not a good game for you. So I think definitely some disappointment from the offensive line. And I know everyone gets so upset when I call out the offensive line. I don't give a damn. And I'm not going to make anyone feel bad, but honestly, you look at that between our 5 offensive linemen, that's 3, 5, 7, 10 pressures. Our offensive line allowed 10 pressures. And, you think about it, 10 pressures throughout a night, that really affects a game because they're usually not on the same play, guys. They're usually on different plays. And if one guy, so imagine that, basically, if they were ever not on the same play, some of them were probably on the same play, but 43 plays passing and we allowed 10 pressures, that's nearly 20% of the time or 25% of the time we were allowing someone to get back there and pressure our quarterback. So not a great look there. Hopefully we can improve that in the future. Just want to address that. Run blocking wise, the story may even be worse. So we go ahead and sort by position. Right tackle Spencer Fano, who had a really rough night. Pass blocking, also had a really rough night run blocking, a 59.5 grade. Now, again, run blocking is probably the thing I'd take least seriously from what PFF gives us data on. But either way, I think it kind of matches what I saw with my eyes. Spencer Fano, rough pass block grade. And then you keep going down here. Caleb Lomu, rough pass block grade. Tanoa Togiai, really rough pass block grade. Jaron Kump, 55.7. Who are we missing? Michael Mokofisi, 57.3. So, I would also say that we didn't do our usual rushing style where we go up the middle, right? We only had 9 running plays where we were going between the tackles with the running backs. So I think that factors into something. But either way, something was off with the offensive line. And I know it's the rivalry game. I'm guessing that played a big factor, but they were for sure off, and it was not a good night for the offensive line. Moving over to the defense, let's take a look here. Let's actually start with rushing defense, and then we'll move over to coverage. So rushing defense, you can see right out the gate, guys, not too terrible in the missed tackle department. You look at this. Sapulona only missed 1 tackle. It was his only tackle attempt, so not too much of a sample size there. John Henry Daly, a bit of a rough night with the missed tackles, especially edge rushers don't usually miss tackles. Tao Johnson, 2 tackles, 1 assisted tackle, 2 missed tackles. And I do want to call that out. I know that highlight play has been surfacing around the internet, not the highlight, low light play, right? Where Tao Johnson has the opportunity to bring down Bear Bachmeier. Teo, if you're listening to this podcast, and Teo actually has been on the podcast, and I think he's an awesome guy. I'm super impressed by him. But I do want to just say, Teo, if you're listening, I would love for you to reach out and give us some context there, man. What happened? I think there's, probably some conspiracy theories out there. I'm going to give a little story from my background as a very mediocre high school athlete. I was in a wrestling match one time, and the wrestling mat next to me blew the whistle while I was pinning a guy, right? I'm attempting to go for the pin. And I hear the whistle, but I thought it was my whistle for my match. So I sit up on my knees like the match is over, and the other guy and I kind of look at each other for a minute, and then all of a sudden he grabs me, gets me on my back, and pins me. But I had stopped the play because I thought I heard the whistle blow. That's what that looked like to me, Teo. When I was watching that, I've seen it a few times. You have him and you just kind of let him go and kind of push off. It looks like you might have thought the whistle was blown. Any context there, I think we would all appreciate that, Teo. Love to hear what happened there. But overall, guys, I think run defense wise, we definitely, we missed some tackles for sure. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 missed tackles. That's pretty rough, but it's not a crazy number. I think considering BYU was such a good rushing team, and their running back, LJ Martin, came into the night averaging like 6.4 yards a carry. And we held him to 4.7, which isn't great, but it's not god awful either. I think we did a decent job covering the run. Yeah. Okay, moving over to coverage. So let's take a look here. I think there's a lot of good in the coverage department. I mean, our guy that led up the most yards is Blake Cotton. He was targeted 5 times, only allowed 2 catches, and it was only 38 yards. I mean, you look, our coverage held up pretty strong, right? It held up pretty strong. Um, and missed tackles when they did catch the ball, not many, right? Just looks like just this one, really. Yeah, literally one missed tackle on coverage. I think it's hard to put too much blame on our defense. Our offense really did not capitalize. And one other thing, I'm not going to say the guy's name. I know who he was, but one other thing is that muffed punt just was a nightmare. I mean, you go back and watch that game, how much that mattered. I know I don't want to make the kid feel bad. I'm sure he already is beating himself up. I can only imagine. But that was a big factor. So that's the situation. Utah versus BYU. Just wanted to give my final thoughts. We didn't capitalize when we got in the red zone. That is literally the reason we lost. Let's be real. Our defense held strong, drive in, drive out. Our offense overall actually put up a lot of yards, especially considering how highly touted this BYU defense was. And they are a very good defense. I mean, they really are. The problem was we would get to like the 30 and just die out. Like it would be like 1 or 2 plays every drive. We'd just be moving. And then all of a sudden, boom, a negative play or something. And we just self-destruct, just no more offense for the rest of the game. It was very confusing to see, very tough to watch, but that's, I'm going to stop talking about the Utah BYU game. I'm going to move on to Utah Colorado, but I did want to just kind of give my final thoughts here. Now that we have the numbers, we have the analysis, good opportunity to bounce back against Colorado, but this is a Big 12 team that does have a ton of talent no matter what their record shows, and we do need to take them very seriously. So stick around. Let's go ahead and dive into Utah versus Colorado. Okay, guys, one more thing to touch on that came out earlier today before we dive into the breakdown that's worth taking a look at. I know usually we get right into it, but there's a lot of news. Whittingham in the press conference today, you see Josh Furlong's tweet here. Whittingham said it's a distinct possibility that Bird Ficklin will get the start this week based on Devin Dampier's health. He didn't provide any information other than everyone will see on the availability report this week. So I'll give a little thoughts on both quarterbacks. That's all I'm really going to go into there. I'm not going to, overload you guys with information. If you're a Utah fan, you already know Bird Ficklin looks pretty damn good, right? It's not exactly like I also want to caveat that Devin Dampier is a more proven, over a significantly larger sample size, explosive player, like really awesome athlete, Devin Dampier. And to think that losing him is not a bit of a hit is, not taking that seriously enough. But I would also say that Devin Dampier or that Bird Ficklin is very good. So let's go ahead and move over here. So now we're diving into the breakdown, guys. We're going to start with Utah's offense right out the gate. Let's talk a little bit about Bird Ficklin. For those of you that are Utah fans that might know of him and might not understand how talented he's been in his small sample size, but also to any Colorado fans watching to kind of see what you're getting. So right out the gate, 11 dropbacks, 9 passing attempts, 9 completions. And these guys, he got in games where the other team, we were kind of blowing him out, and he got real snaps against real starters for Power 4 teams. So it's not like these are garbage snaps. They're in garbage time, but they're against good talent. So you see here, guys, 9 attempts, 9 completions, 138 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 big time throw, 0 turnover worthy plays. Average depth of target's pretty dang low, 7.9 yards. But again, we're keeping it pretty safe and simple because it's towards the end of games where we already have the game in hand and we're just kind of trying to run that clock. One exciting stat, though, is this 7 first downs. So for just to give you guys an idea, Devin Dampier had 72 first downs on 137 completions. So about half of his completions go for a first down, where Devin Dampier has 7 first downs on 9 completions. So we're talking about roughly 75-80% of his throws do go for first down. So the very limited sample size we've seen of Bird Ficklin is extremely good. Now, you can see Devin Dampier, we're talking about a guy, 68.2 completion percentage, and that is after one game where he had the worst completion percentage of his probably career, definitely his career at Utah. But a little rough in the big time throw to turnover worthy play ratio there, 5 to 7, not what you want to see. But either way, Devin is an extremely talented player and an extremely explosive athlete. So let's go ahead and move over to these two as rushers to give you an idea of what they're both bringing in the rushing department. I'm going to get rid of running backs and fullbacks for a second and just show the non quarterbacks. This will probably show Smith Snowden as well and some of the other guys, but specifically, I would like to focus on Bird and Devin Dampier. So you can see here, guys, Bird Ficklin is also a very dynamic athlete. 21 carries in the year, guys. That's not a tiny sample size. It's not huge, but I believe that's actually more rushes, and it is, if I'm correct, it's more rushes than Daniel Bray has on the season. And he has 21 carries for 106 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's only 2 touchdowns less than Devin Dampier has in the whole season on, 1/3 of the carries, basically. Now, again, Devin Dampier would still be the guy you'd want in at the moment until Bird has a big sample size of proving it. But you take a look here, guys. He has 10 forced missed tackles on the year on 21 carries, again, against good talent in games where they were out there with their starters still. And 10 forced missed tackles, nearly 50% of his carries have a forced missed tackle, where Devin Dampier's more closer to the 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 range for forced missed tackles. And Bird Ficklin, 4 carries of 10 plus yards, 3 carries of 15 plus yards. This is what I would say, guys. If Bird Ficklin is in over Devin Dampier, that's not in itself a good thing at face value, right? But is it necessarily like a big negative? No. Basically, what you're going to get if that does happen is a very unproven guy that in a small sample size, mainly against good talent, just to reiterate that, he has looked extremely good. Look at that grade, guys. A 94.3 offensive grade. And this is on how many snaps he's played, 54 snaps. I mean, that's not nothing. That's not crazy high, but I mean, 94.3, even if you're going to say he's in the 70s, that's still extremely good. That's a good player. So I would say, like, if Devin is out, that's not a good thing. We're probably I would expect a small step down from Bird to Devin, but is it necessarily a step down? No. Bird looks extremely good, and I actually think when it comes to the arm talent, Bird is on a higher level than Devin Dampier. Bird can sling the rock in a way that Devin Dampier can't, and if Bird is out there and he looks the way he has looked in in previous weeks with how dynamic and how big of a playmaker he is, there is a world where we have a quarterback controversy going into the Cincinnati game. I just being clear, Bird has looked elite. And if he can look even in the ballpark of what he's looked like in that small sample size, will have a quarterback controversy on our hands. So just wanted to touch on that there. But those are our two quarterbacks. We're getting a good one either way. So I'm not too concerned, but again, you probably want Devin because it's more proven. We're not rolling the dice as much with Devin as we would be with Bird. But if Bird is in, he looks very good. Okay, now let's move on to the receiving game for Utah. So sorting by targets, 55 targets for Ryan Davis, the clear target leader on the season, 46 receptions for nearly 481 yards, 3 touchdowns, forced missed tackles. I want to get to that. He has 8 on the year. So he's averaging 1.25 a game. So one forced missed tackle a game, 23 first downs on 46 catches. So half of his catches are going for first downs. And you can see here, guys, mainly out wide, but also does play a little in the slot. Yak yards, only 2.9. I've been talking about that all year. He does need to get some more yak yards. But the great thing is not a lot of drops, very high reception percentage, and a reliable target for Devin Dampier. And also, if Bird is in there and he can start connecting deep, which has kind of been the bane of our passing game, the bane of the existence for our passing game, that will open up Ryan Davis so much. If Ryan Davis could get a complimentary guy to get downfield and have a quarterback that could really get him the ball, Ryan Davis would see a huge bump. Like there's no way you're going to be able to account for a deep threat and a quarterback that can connect with them and Ryan Davis. That's not going to happen. And Dallin Bentley. So we'll go ahead and use that as our transition. Dallin Bentley, 38 targets, 28 catches, 73.7 reception percentage, 335 yards, 3 touchdowns. So again, guys, we're talking about a guy that's in that 50 to 60 receiving yards per game. Looks like a very good player. Yak yards, 4.7 yards per catch, average depth of target right at around that 10-yard mark. And moving over here, he also has 5 forced missed tackles, which isn't crazy high, but it's pretty good. 18 first downs. So Dallin Bentley, I believe heading into the BYU game, he was the top graded tight end, number 3 top graded tight end in all of college football, but the number 1 graded tight end for PFF on the west side of the country. So pretty good numbers there. Tobias Merriweather continues to just it's not there. I did notice Devin definitely starting to target him more last week in the BYU game, but definitely not there yet. I mean, 22 targets, 8 catches, 110 yards. What can you say? Right? What can you say here, guys? What can you say? I would love to see more from this guy, and I think in his defense, I think a lot of Utah fans got a little overhyped on him. I was a little shocked at how much early preseason hype there was on this guy because I didn't see it. But hopefully he steps up. Hopefully we see more. We can't have 1 out of 3 targets being catches. That's not going to do it. Okay, JJ Buchanan continues to be a budding star. 16 targets, 11 catches. I know that seems like a low catch rate, 68.8%, but let me show you a number that's going to change your mind. 8 of those targets are contested catch opportunities. So take a look down the line here, guys. He has more contested catch opportunities, 2 more than anyone else on this list, and has caught 6 of them. So his actual percentage that he's catching is 75%, 6 out of 8. That is a nuts number, guys. 5 first downs on 11 catches. Very impressive. And JJ Buchanan, 2 touchdowns on the year. He is a dog, guys. JJ Buchanan is special when it comes to being able to pull down those contested catches. I really, really hope we continue to get him involved because he is, just a guy worth taking the shot for. I mean, damn, 75%. I think he's kind of underutilized right now. I mean, how can you not throw him up 2 or 3 a game? Right? Especially, you get a first down, it's first down, just give him a shot. Get him out there. If you get the look you want, and then if they're double teaming him, go to Ryan Davis, go to Dallin Bentley. There's no way they're double teaming JJ Buchanan. Like, not that he's not elite, but the guy only has 16 targets on the year. I doubt teams are like game planning around JJ Buchanan. If you get that guy in single coverage, you better be getting him the ball because he is damn good. Larry Simmons has had some flashes too. 11 targets, 5 catches, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Another guy that is a bit of a contested catch guy. 2 contested catches, brought down both of them, and looks very good for my eyes. I would love to see Larry and JJ get more involved. They kind of seem like 2 guys that are a bit underutilized. Hunter Andrews came on amazing during the season, then kind of just hasn't been as involved. Wayshawn Parker, he's the running back, 8 targets, 7 catches, 90 yards. Other running back, Nakari Rogers, 3 targets, 3 catches, 43 yards. And we will go ahead and continue on from there. But that is our receiving game. I think just before we move on, I'll just give my thoughts. I think we have 2 bona fide, solidified weapons that look very good. Ryan Davis looks like, one of the better receivers in the Big 12 for my money. Dallin Bentley looks like one of the best tight ends overall in the Big 12, if not in the country, according to PFF, but looks very solid either way. Like, even if you're going to say he's not at that level, he looks good. He looks like a very good tight end. But then I think you got so much room here, guys. And I would really, and I don't want to bash on Tobias Merriweather because I would love to see him get involved. He's a big, deep threat, big target. I just think JJ Buchanan and Larry Simmons, JJ Buchanan more specifically, need to get involved, need to be on the field, need to be getting targets, and it's kind of embarrassing that we're not utilizing them more. Okay, now we're going to jump over to our pass blocking. Moving over to our pass blocking. So as we went over at the beginning of this video, we do have a situation where our pass blocking in this past game got dominated quite a bit. I mean, there's no really getting around that, guys. We allowed what 10 pressures with it. That is crazy high, especially with this offensive line. Like, honestly, I think we've allowed probably about 10 to 12 pressures all season. And to allow 10 pressures in one game, like we literally doubled our number. I'll show you in a second here. We literally doubled our numbers. So let me open this up. We'll only do center, guard, tackle. And I think you guys will see why, just how shocking those numbers are here in a second. Now, you look on the season, guys. Overall, pass blocking wise, a lot of our guys are grading out super well. I'm going to do minimum pass block snaps at 150 just so it gets rid of the non starters. But you take a look here, like Jaron comes the worst grade at a 69.2. And pressure wise, our highest guy is Caleb Lemieux at 7 pressures. And don't forget, we've played 7 games. So we're still only averaging 1 pressure per game. Spencer Fano, though, like I mentioned, he had 3 pressures in this last game, so he doubled his pressures. Jaron Kump had 2, so his went up a lot as well. Tanoa Togiai still only at 2 on the year. So this is kind of the story with our offensive line. They got really tested last week. I mean, look at this. How many are we talking about? So 12 plus 7, 19, plus 5, that's 24, plus 2, that's 26. So we had 26 on the whole season, and 10 of them were last week. By far our worst pass blocking week of the entire year, not even close, right? Even Texas Tech did not get to us the way BYU did. So how this offensive line bounces back will be so critically important to whether or not we win this Colorado game. I expect them to. If anything, I expect them to come with a vengeance and bring that pass blocking ability up another notch because we know what they're capable of, because they are one of the best pass blocking offensive lines in the country. That was weird to see last week. Rivalry games are weird, and that's why we all knew it was going to be a close game if you've been sticking around a while. So that's our offensive line. Next up, we're going to take a look at the pass defense for Colorado. All right, guys. And as mentioned, the Utah pass blocking offensive line is going to have to step up and show that they still are as touted as we thought they were before last week. Because last week they did get pushed around a little. And this week against Colorado is a really good chance to do it. Like I mentioned, or maybe I haven't mentioned it yet, but Colorado had the 42nd toughest strength of schedule, and Utah has the 21st toughest strength of schedule. So neither team has played an easy strength of schedule. Utah's played a reasonably harder one, but not one where you can discount the numbers Colorado's putting up. And let's take a look, guys, because they've got some real dogs in the pass rush unit. So take a look here. The guy that stands out to me right out the gate is Arden Walker, 129 pass rush snaps. So a guy that's out there game in, game out. 16.7 pass rush win percentage. This guy gets back there. But even if he's not in, you got a bunch of these dogs, right? Just to give you guys some context, a 10% pass rush win percentage is pretty solid. That's like a decent pass rusher. That's a guy you expect to make a little bit of an impact, right? But then you get up to this 12, 13, 14% range and so on. These are guys that are consistently making an impact. And you can see these guys aren't doing it on tiny sample sizes. They're rotating in a lot of guys, but still, I mean, these are good numbers, guys. And some of these guys are doing this from the interior. I mean, you check out this guy, 57 pass rush snaps from the defensive interior with an 11.1% win rate. And then this guy up here, edge rushers, 72 pass rush snaps, 14.9% win rate. This is a very good pass rushing group. Understand that, especially at the interior. Like I mentioned, 10% is decent. That's decent as an edge rusher. 10% as an interior player is actually a pretty good number. Usually, interior players will average closer to 6 to 7%, but they've got a lot of guys that are going to get out there and get some play. You can see they have some guys that are a little lower, but none of these guys are like charitable. As you get a lot lower, like this guy's probably the only guy that's not really doing much, Brandon Davis Swain. But the rest of these guys look like they're all going to rotate in, and they only have a few guys below a 10% win rate. So our offensive line that really got bullied a little bit last week is going to have to step up this week and show what they're capable of. this will be an interesting matchup because this is up there. I mean, we've got the Big 12 just has some nasty pass rush units. I mean, this BYU didn't look that great as a pass rush unit, but they really took our offensive line to task and pushed them to the limit. And this Colorado group looks pretty damn good. So let's keep it moving. Let's go ahead and check out how they fare in coverage for Colorado against our passing attack. I think that'll be an interesting one for us. So taking a look here, guys, in coverage, let's see, we got a minimum of 35 coverage snaps. So this should basically be guys that are all going to get out there and see the field. So this is a much better sign for Utah. Okay, so they've got multiple guys that have allowed 200 plus receiving yards, and then a lot of guys that have allowed 125 plus, right? So right out the gate, you got the two, and they're both cornerbacks. Wow. Okay, DJ McKinney and Preston Hodge, and they're allowing right around a 60% completion percentage, which is pretty high for a corner. 28 targets, 16 catches allowed, 40 targets, 23 catches allowed. Boom. Let's see. Yak per. No, it doesn't say yak, but and then the missed tackles aren't that bad. 25% is a little high, but 19 is not terrible. For corners, you don't usually expect it to be super low. But you can see these coverage grades kind of tell the same thing I was just saying. I mean, look at some of these. Look how many of these are in the 30s or 40s. Damn. And again, the grades aren't everything, but the stats attached to the grades are. And this Preston Hodge guy, 175 yak yards on the season allowed. Well, that is a lot, right? I mean, this looks like some good matchups here, guys. I mean, this guy's what I like to look at is yards allowed per coverage snap. So right here, he's about 1 for 1, 241 coverage snaps, 236 yards, which is, kind of bad. Not terrible, but kind of bad. This guy, 297 yards allowed, 235 coverage snaps. This guy, a little better, 126 on 178. This guy, 144 on 172. So those two aren't terrible. DJ McKinney, a little not great, but not bad. But then you go down a little bit here, guys. These guys, 135 yards on 134 coverage snaps, 133 on 94, and so on. You got a lot of guys here that are actually letting up quite a bit, and there's a lot of yak yards in this pool here. That's a lot of yak yards. So I feel really good. Honestly, I think their pass rush, just initial takes on our passing attack versus their pass rush unit or versus their pass defense, I think we have outside of the last game, our pass blocking has been premier upper echelon in all of college football. And last game, they got very tested against a pass rush unit that didn't look great heading into the game. And, unsurprisingly, they need to bounce back. And they're going to go against a really good unit in Colorado in the pass rush. But the good thing for us is Colorado seems to struggle quite a bit in coverage, and they have a lot of guys that they're going to rotate in, a lot of safeties, a lot of linebackers to be letting up these kind of yards is deadly for us. Expect Allen Bentley to get involved, but I mean, I feel very good about this matchup and our receivers versus their coverage. Just right out the gate, that's the clear takeaway early in these numbers. So very good look there. If anything, our offensive line should be just as good as their pass rush outside of last week. And then on top of that, our receivers should have a day with this coverage unit. So usually our receivers will struggle against good coverage units. So anyways, let's keep it moving. We're going to move to our rushing attack versus the Colorado rushing defense. So boom. Let's see. Let's keep it at a minimum of 10 carries on the season. And let's move over to Utah. Boom. All right. Moving over to Utah. All right. So take a look here, guys. So obviously, Daniel Bray is definitely worth mentioning again. We're talking about a guy that now has 18 carries for 194 yards, 10.8 yards a carry, and 1 touchdown. That huge 49-yard touchdown. And he has 8 broken tackles on 18 carries. So his dynamic and explosive excuse me, as dynamic and explosive as he is, he's also breaking a lot of tackles. 8 of his 18 carries have gone for 10 plus yards, and 5 of his 18 carries have gone for 15 plus yards. So nearly 30% of his carries have gone for 15 plus yards. It's a very, very impressive number. Wayshawn Parker and Akari Rogers. Wayshawn had a bit of a rough week. He did get 8 carries, but didn't do much with it. So his numbers went down quite a bit, but still 6.2 yards per carry on the season, still very impressive. Akari Rogers didn't get any carries, really. He had 1 carry last week, and he continues to be a really good short yardage back. That's who he's kind of been all year. Hopefully we get him back involved. I found that very odd that he wasn't more involved in the game plan. Very, very confusing there. And then let's go ahead and move over to our run blocking. I know our run blocking, our offensive line in general last week just had a rough time. I mean, there's no getting around that. Let's see where they are on the year. Let's go with minimum 125 run block snaps. Let's get rid of tight end. And actually, let's keep tight end in because that will matter. But let's get rid of running back. All right. All right. Good. Okay, so you can see here overall in the season, even though he had a really rough week, Spencer Fano's grading out as a really good run blocker. Dallin Bentley looks above average. Caleb Lomu looks about average. Jaron Kump below average. Michael Mokofisi a little bad, and Tanoa Togia kind of just bad, right? And then you got Silatoa Moiai, but he's more of an extra tight end, a little unique here, but he's not grading out very well. Again, the grades aren't everything, and run blocking is 100% based on grades according to PFF. But I would say the eye test feels similar to this. I would even say I think some of these guys are a little better, and maybe Spencer Fano is not as good as he's grading out as. Not that he's not good. I think he's still probably at the top of this list, but I'd say like maybe Jaron Kump's a little better, maybe Caleb Lomu's a little better, maybe Spencer Fano's a little worse, maybe Solatoa Moiai is a little better. So that's kind of my thoughts. I'd say we have an average run blocking unit right now. That's kind of how it looks. I think that's a fair thing to say. You'd like to see more. Hopefully we can get a little more out of them. Now let's take a look at how they're going to fare against the run defense for Colorado. I think we got a good running back room, though. Really good running back room. And I also will throw out while we're pulling up Colorado that I really like this new offensive style we're running where we have Daniel Bray at a wide receiver. I mean, that's 2 games in a row where that's been kind of the base set. Daniel Bray at a wide receiver and either Nakari Rogers or Wayshawn Parker in at running back. It gives you a real fun, like exciting triple option style offense. And I know not everyone's a fan of that, but I did really like the way it's been looking lately. So again, we're going to go off guys with minimum 100 or minimum 35 rushing run defense snaps. They got a lot of good numbers here. You can see up and down the board, not a ton of missed tackles. That's honestly surprising. That's not what I expected to see. I expected to see a group that did miss a lot of tackles. So that's a little unique. I was not expecting that. Oh, so we got to adjust this. So 35. Okay, boom. Okay, so now the list is a little bigger, and they do have a lot of guys that rotate in. They must try to keep their units fresh. And you can see there's some guys that struggle a little bit with the run blocking or the run stopping. Um, but really, even when you sort like this, they don't have a lot of missed tackles. I mean, this is the only guy with a lot of missed tackles, 28.6. The rest of these guys, it's a little high for an edge rusher, 16%. But I'm very surprised with how Colorado looks in the numbers, right? It kind of like you would think that they'd be more finesse just based on stereotypes and knowledge of Colorado, that they'd be a little more flashy, a little more finesse, and a little less tough. But it actually looks like in the trenches, they're a pretty decent squad. So, yeah, that's a little surprising. So, our rushing attack versus their rushing defense, I think we've got some good. I think we're still a solid unit, but I will say that I just initial thoughts before we move on to Colorado's offense versus our defense. I think Colorado has a significantly better trench battle opportunity to take it to us than I thought they would. Right? They beefed up in the trenches. They look like a good squad. They look like they will be formidable. And Utah is going to have to bring their A game, right? We're going to have to be tough. We're going to have to get that run blocking up. We can't look how we looked against BYU. But we have a significant advantage in the passing game, right? And again, even though we did struggle last week in pass blocking, that was 1 week, and we have 6 other weeks that show we have one of the best pass blocking units in the country. We've gone against some pretty talented teams, Arizona State, Texas Tech, and that sample size includes all those games. And I think when you factor that in, I feel very good about the overall passing matchup. It seems clear that we have the advantage in our receivers versus their DBs. And then on top of that, I'd say when you factor in the season, I think we have a little bit of an edge on our offensive line pass blocking against their pass rush, right? Again, I think they look like a good pass rush unit. They'll probably get some pressure, but I think our offensive line is going to be hungry to, bounce back and show what they're capable of and show kind of how they've been playing all year and kind of remind people what they're up to. But I think we'll do a really good job passing the ball against the squad. I think where we might struggle is rushing the ball. They actually look quite good in the run defense. I mean, look how many of these players have really high run defense grades, really low missed tackle percentages, and a lot of stops here too. Stop percentages are pretty decent. So what I could see a world where we run well also, just because we do tend to be a team that runs well. Like I feel like we're a team that runs well against people we're not supposed to run well against, and don't run well against people we are supposed to run well against, right? Just like Arizona State, right? Just ran the ball at will on them, and it's considered an elite run defense. I mean, they just beat Texas Tech. Um, Either way, though, that's kind of how I see it. Passing the ball well against them, maybe struggling a little to run the ball against them. Okay, now we're going to move over to Colorado's passing attack. So let's take a look. So I do believe their starter is going to be Caden Salter. Let me just make sure that's the case. Sorry, guys, I'm not watching Colorado every day. All right, is he going to be the starter? Let's see. Let's see. I'm pretty sure he's a starter. I just want to double check. I know they've had a bit of a quarterback controversy. All right, other concern. Okay, looks like what they're saying. I'm going to share this article. Yeah, although Caden Salter hasn't quite performed to his standards this season, the veteran Colorado Buffaloes quarterback still strikes fear into the heart of opposing coaches due to his dual threat capabilities. On Monday, longtime Utah Utes leader has coached their concerns of stopping Colorado's. The Buffs show plenty of good offense against Iowa State, making the beast their hands well. Okay, cool. So I think it's fair to say we should expect Caden Salter to be the guy. And he honestly hasn't been terrible on the year. You take a look here, guys, 176 dropbacks, 143 passing attempts, 93 completions. You actually look at Ryan Staub, the numbers are significantly worse. Caden Salter's got 1,156 yards in the year, 9 touchdowns, 4 picks, 6 big-time throws, 7 turnover-worthy plays. So a little bit of a negative BTT to TWP ratio, but still pretty solid. Average depth of target, decent, 9.3 yards. I'd say you look at this, kind of a low completion percentage, and combined with a not high yards per attempt, I think that bodes well for us. Let's go ahead and move over to his rushing ability because he is a dynamic player with his feet. And let's touch on that before we touch on the rest of the passing attack for Colorado. Okay, right here. Yeah, you can see 60 carries, 329 yards, 5.5 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns, 0 fumbles, 19 forced missed tackles. That's a lot of forced missed tackles. So 1/3 of his carries, basically, he's forcing a missed tackle. 12 carries of 10 plus yards, 4 carries of 15 plus yards. So he's very dynamic and can really break away and make plays. I think he's better than a lot of people are giving him credit for. As a coach, I'm guessing he's kind of tough to game plan against if you were the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator game planning against him. But his completion percentage is really low for an average depth of target that's not really, launching the ball downfield. 65% would be low as a general rule. Okay. Now pass blocking. Okay. Wow. Okay. We got a group here. We got a group. Okay. So these top 5 guys are the guys we're going to want to look at. So Larry Johnson III, Xylon Chrysler, Xavier Hill, Zarian McGill, and Jordan Seaton. Wow. Really good group. Okay, wow, okay. So 11 pressures allowed by Larry Johnson. He's their must be their right tackle because Jordan Seaton is probably their left tackle. Jordan Seaton's only allowed one um, pressure all season, and Jordan Seaton was a 5-star prospect. He's a big deal. Chrysler is allowed 8 pressures. Xavier Hill's allowed 7. Just to give you guys an idea so why I talk so highly about our offensive line. So this Xavier Hill has 7 pressures. The other guys have 8 and 11 above him, but that's 7 is the most any of our offensive linemen have allowed. Just to give you guys an idea, and I would say Colorado's offensive line looks very, very good overall. You can see between for on the whole season, so 1, 3, 7, 14, 14 plus 8, 22 plus 11. So they've only allowed 33 pressures. We've allowed less, but they're still a very good pass block unit. So do not expect it to be an easy night for our pass rush unit, but I do expect our pass rush unit to step it up and show what they're capable of. I actually just realized I didn't finish I didn't go through our pass rush unit. I had someone bring it up to me. Let me go through our pass rush unit in last week's game just while it's on the top of mind. Why not take a look? So, how did they do? All right, total pressures. So John Henry Daly had 6 pressures, which is freaking ridiculous, right? Only a 12.5 win percentage, but it looks like basically every win became a pressure. So that's good. But outside of that, it was not much, right? Everyone else only had like 1 pressure. Looks like there was a lot of rotation. And the truth is, you look at these numbers, I think what it tells you is BYU ran a lot. So they try to negate our pass rush by running a lot. But John Henry Daly showed out pretty well, right? We didn't get the pressures in. So is what it is there. Okay, let's move back over to our pass rush grades and take a look at our pass rush on how we've been doing. So, all right, where am I? Why am I? Okay, here we go. Defensive grade, pass rush grades, all. And let's go minimum pass rush snaps. We'll go 35. So guys that are very likely a part of the rotation. And we'll go Utah. Okay. Okay, so like I said, they've only allowed 33 pressures all year, but take a look at this, guys. John Henry Daly alone on the year has 34 pressures and a 24.4% pass rush win rate. And again, went against a very good offensive line in BYU. They were a good offensive line. I talked about that heading into the game. But I think what's exciting for us is, like I mentioned, John Henry Daly's a beast. You saw how highly I regarded I was about their pass rush, and none of them were over 20% pass rush win rate. So that should give you an idea of just how nasty John Henry Daly is. Lander Barton also, he's out for the first half. That's a good note to remember as we go through this. So he'll be out for the first half, but that pass rush will probably be a little more impactful in the second half either way. Lance Holzclaw, 12.7%. Logan Fano, 12.7%. Carson Confusi is an interior guy as well, 11.1%. Jonathan Hall, 10.5%. Jonathan Hall is out there a lot. So Cash Dillon, this was actually lower earlier in the year, but on 72 pass rush snaps, he's up to a 9.2. But either way, the truth is John Henry Daly against Jordan Seaton will be a big matchup. If John Henry Daly can get consistent pressure against Jordan Seaton or get some pressure against Jordan Seaton, that'll actually be a big deal. And then the truth is, it's going to be a lot of pressure on Logan Fano and Lance Holtzclaw, right? Those guys are going to rotate in, and those guys are both guys that are 12.7% on the season. The other offensive tackle for Colorado and I really doubt they're going to put the other offensive tackle against John Henry Daly. I don't think it's going to happen. And John Henry Daly rushes off the right side, if I'm correct. Anyways, 12.7% for both those guys. They're both nasty pass rushers, so I expect them to get back there and cause some pressure. I think this will be an intriguing matchup. I don't think it's clear that either side has the advantage. I think they have one elite offensive tackle. We have one elite edge rusher, and then the rest of the units for both teams both look good to very good, right? So Paul Fitzgerald, hopefully he's back, though. I'm not sure what the injury update shows, but he wasn't in last game. Hopefully he could be back. Okay, now we're going to move over to receiving. So we're going to check out receiving weapons for Colorado. All right. Okay. Okay. Targets. That's why. All right, I'm just going to go off guys that have at least 10 targets. Let's do that. Okay. So Colorado has a lot of guys that have 10 targets. They definitely spread the ball around. And they have two clear, like, standout studs in their room. One, Omarion Miller, 33 targets, 20 catches, 60.6 reception percentage, 371 yards, 18.6 yards a catch, which is really high. That's like Chase Roberts territory on BYU. It was really good. He has 4 touchdowns as well. Yak yards, 145, 7.3 yak yards per catch. So this guy's very good, very talented. 70-yard catch in the year. So only 3 contested catch opportunities, only caught one of them. And then Joseph Williams is actually a guy that committed to Utah and then wound up flipping to Colorado. I actually have a recruiting video on Joseph Williams on the channel, and I thought he was extremely talented. I thought he looked like a really good player. I was so excited for Utah to get him. And then he ups and leaves to Colorado. But he is very talented, guys. 3 touchdowns, 370 receiving yards, 33 targets, 24 catches, 15.4 yards per catch, 4.3 yak yards, which is like pretty decent. But the thing is with him is average depth of target is 14.4 yards. So he gets downfield, gets open, and makes plays. Not anything special in contested catches. He's 4 opportunities, only 1 catch. Fumbled the ball once, but he does. I mean, we're talking about a guy with 370 yards in the season. He is a good player. We're going to have to account for him. I was looking at this. This guy kind of reminds me of Tobias Merriweather for us, right? 21 targets, 11 catches, 95 yards, 1 touchdown. And he has, just a guy's just not doing much with the opportunities he's given. Not trying to bash on the guys, how it looks. We've got Sincere Brown, 19 targets, 11 catches, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns. But this guy averages nearly 23 yards a catch. That's huge. And all of his snaps are out wide, basically. Yak yards, 12.7 yards of yak per reception. This guy is deadly. Do not sleep on this Sincere Brown dude. That is pretty wild. He has 4 contested catch opportunities, only caught one of them. Doesn't seem like they're a team that does a lot with the contested catches. But this guy, I feel like everyone's going to be focused on Omarion Miller and Joseph Williams. This Sincere Brown guy looks legit. I guess the one other guy probably worth mentioning is DeKalon Taylor. What is he at? He's 13 targets, 10 catches, 2 touchdowns, 106 yards. Average depth of target, 2.8 yards. So he's basically catching it, and all of his yards are yak. You can see 7.9 yards of yak. And yes, he is a running back. And then the tight end here, the only tight end really in their passing game is 12 targets, 7 catches, 45 yards. So yeah, they basically are going to run 3 or 4 receivers in a lot of sets. So be ready. We are going to put receivers out on the field, or a lot of corners out on the field, and they're going to try to air it out on us. I mean, they have some good receiving talent. They have 4 legit players, or like 3 very legit receivers from what I can see, and then a couple other guys that could do some damage if they get the right opportunity. So let's go ahead and flip over to our defense, who actually coverage-wise had a pretty good night last night, or, the other night against BYU. Let's take a look here. All right. Okay. So take a look here, guys. On the season, Utah, let's bump up the minimum snaps to 35 to make sure it's only players that are in the rotation. So you can see here, Jackson Benny, a guy 176 snaps on the year, 196 yards allowed, so about 1-to-1. But with Jackson Benny, what stands out to you is the interceptions. He has 3, and he had another one against BYU that got called back because someone else had a penalty on the other side of the field, but it was an interception. So he is a very dynamic player. 21.1% missed tackle percentage for corners, pretty solid, 5 stops, dynamic player, turnover machine, and there's a reason he's graded out at an 83.4. He is very, very good. Smith Snowden, another guy that continues to impress, only 74 yards allowed on the season on 167 coverage snaps, guys. And a lot of the time we put Smith Snowden against their best receiver, and he continues to show up. So right there, I think we have 2 corners that can go toe to toe with some of the better receivers on Colorado. Now it starts to get into the next conversation, right? What about 3? What about 4? What about when they put 5 guys on the field? How does it look? Blake Cotton, I mean, he's kind of had a little bit of an up and down season, but on 162 coverage snaps, he's only let up 133 yards. So it's pretty solid. 24 targets, 11 catches. And you look here, guys, when he gets targeted, it's downfield. He's looked like a pretty good player. Lander Barton, great at covering the tight end, but that shouldn't be too much of a thing in this game. One thing that really stands out to me is Teo Johnson, 204 coverage snaps, only 41 yards allowed. I think we'll definitely have him covering these receivers a little bit in the game. Go down to Elijah Davis, 194 coverage snaps, only 152 yards allowed. So that's like 0.75 yards allowed per coverage snap. And Jonathan Hall down there. Nate Tillman gets some snaps, but I think what we're going to see, guys, is Elijah Davis, Tao Johnson, Blake Cotton, Smith Snowden, Jackson Benny against these wide receivers. And I would say, I mean, being impartial, I think it's about even. I think they have a good group of receivers, but I'd say it's about even. And I think, if anything, on the high end, especially looking at Smith Snowden, I feel good about Smith Snowden against either one of their receivers. So I feel pretty decent, but I'd say it's probably a split where it's like that we don't have a huge advantage, but we have an advantage. So that's kind of how I feel. All right, now next we will move on to our run defense against their rushing offense. All right, guys, and now we are looking at our run defense against their rushing offense. So right out the gate, what stands out to here, um, Lander Barton, right? Only a 10% missed tackle percentage, 15 tackles, 10 stops, 6.2 stop percentage, playmaker, right? Really good player. He'll be out in the first half. We still have a lot of other good run defenders, but we might miss him a little bit. He is a really good run defender and just a really good player overall. Not having him might be felt a little in that first half. Jonathan Hall, though, has really come on as a superstar. I mean, if you guys are watching, you see Jonathan Hall flying over all over the field, 18 tackles, only a 7.1 missed tackle percentage, 9 stops, 5.4 stop percentage, a really good playmaker here. Levani Damuni's also a very good linebacker, only 6.7 missed tackle percentage, 6.9 stop percentage. So if he has to come in and fill in for Lander Barton for a while, that is not the end of the world. I mean, if there's anyone you want to do it, Levani Damuni, to me, it's weird that he doesn't get on the field more. He's so damn good. Then you look at our edge rushers here: Logan Fano, Lance Holtzclaw, John Henry Daly. I mean, these guys, as deadly as they are in the pass rush, none of these guys have over a 12.5% missed tackle percentage. Lance Holtzclaw has a 12.1% stop percentage, which is very strong. Look, really good group here, guys. So I would say not too stressed about it. You see a couple low run defense grades from our corners. I think those missed tackle grades are a little exaggerated, where especially Smith Snowden, he went for some tackles against ASU that were just a little ill-advised, just kind of diving at people's legs, and I think it kind of hurt his numbers a little bit. But overall, you look at that run defense, it looks good. Let's go ahead and move over to the run blocking for Colorado. They looked like a very good pass blocking unit, and that's kind of the story with our guys, where they're a really good pass blocking unit, not as good of a run blocking. Let's see how Colorado looks run blocking. So taking a look, and again, guys, run blocking, they don't give you too much to look at. You just kind of got to look at the grades they give you. I wish it was better. I really, really do. But this is what they give you. So let's take a look. Let's give a thought. Okay, so this is good. So they actually look like a worse run blocking unit than we are, which, like I said, we in the eye test and reality, we're probably average to above average. They look more below average. You see here, they got the guard up at the top there, but that guy's not even going to play. He's not even the starter for them. So let's bump this up to 100 snaps. And then we got our real group. So this is the real group here. Their best guys slightly above average in Zary McGill. A lot of below average guys outside of that, and a lot of bad to really bad. Jordan Seaton's actually really bad run blocking, 51.9. So right out the gate, let's see how their running backs look. But I'm going to say that we should have a big advantage in run defense against their rushing offense out the gate. That seems pretty clear to me. Okay, so now we're going to go only guys that have a minimum of 10 rushing attempts. So, you feel confident they'll get into the rotation. These guys look pretty good, right? Mekhi Welch, I'm not sure if you say it that way, Micah, Mekhi, however you say it, 63 rushing attempts, 268 yards, 4.3 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns, fumbled twice. Nothing crazy, nothing bad, right? He looks like a solid running back. Let's see what he's looking like as far as first downs. So 15 first downs. So I would think a guy with 4.3 yards per carry would probably have a lot of first downs. It's not super low. He only has 63 carries. They must do a decent rotation. This guy's 21 carries for 6.8. He's probably their best looking running back for my money. Simeon Price, 2 touchdowns. You can see here 4 carries of 10 plus yards, 3 carries of 15 plus yards, and Dallin Hayden. But Micah Welch or Mekhi Welch, however you say it, seems to be their main guy. I would say I'm not intimidated. I think just initial thoughts on their run blocking and their running backs versus our um, defensive front actually stopping the run. I feel good. Again, they do have a quarterback that can run the ball. It looks like Draylon Miller gets some carries, so 69 yards in the season, 4.3 yards a carry. Feeling good initially about the matchup, though. All right, guys, so that is all of it, I believe. I covered both sides of the ball, so stick around. I'm going to give you guys my final prediction, final thoughts, and then we will get out of here. Hold on. All right, guys. Now I'm going to give my final prediction, give my final thoughts on the matchup here. You can kind of see on the screen, according to Gamecast from ESPN, they're showing an 83.3% chance Utah wins. And I will tell you, after breaking down the numbers, I do feel that's a pretty fair thing to say. There is a high chance Utah wins this game. And the reason I believe that to be true is the Colorado offense looks kind of one-dimensional, where they throw the ball pretty well. They have a good group of receivers, and that's about it, right? That they run for a decent yards per attempt, but their total carries was like in the 120 range, 150 range. It wasn't a lot. It was well under 200 total carries, something like that. And I would just point out that the yards per carry is not bad, but their actual running game as a part of their total offense just really isn't there. And if we can commit hard to stopping their pass, they're not going to be able to capitalize on the rushing opportunities. And then in the actual matchup of their run blocking offensive line versus our run stopping defense, we seem to have a pretty big advantage. And then when you flip it on offense, they're actually a surprisingly good run stopping defense, which I did not expect heading into the matchup. The problem for them is it looks like our passing game will have a big advantage over their passing defense, which was not what I saw coming into this matchup. But um, I think our offensive line is probably a little better than their pass rush, but they do have a very good pass rush unit. It'll be one of the better ones we've seen this year, even though we have seen some great ones. This will be one of the good ones. But our offensive line, I'd still say, is a little better when you look at the whole season outside of last week, which was kind of an anomaly for our offensive line. And then when you look at our receivers against their DBs, I think we have a pretty good mismatch there. At least in Dallin Bentley, especially, which they didn't have any linebackers or safeties that really stood out strongly to me. So I think that's a good sign. And then when you look at I just think our passing game, I'll just kind of break it down. Our passing game should be better than their pass defense. Their running defense might give us some fits on the rushing offense. That could be a factor if we really struggle to run the ball, like if it really becomes a problem and we're forced to throw all the time. That could be a little tougher for us. But then when they're on offense, I think our corners match up pretty well with their passing offense. I think it's at most, I think about a stalemate, right? And I think our pass rush is right at that we have an elite pass rush. They have elite pass blocking, and so we'll call that a stalemate too. But then our run defense against their ability to run the ball seems to be the thing that really stands out as our big advantage. Also, just to kind of take a step back, we mentioned it earlier. We're not sure who the quarterback for Utah is going to be. It could be Bird Ficklin. It could be Devin Dampier. And kind of in my mind, I think if it's I'm going to give predictions based on either or. So I think if it's Devin Dampier, I think we see a score. Well, let me tell you what the difference between Devin and Bird is just before I tell you my score prediction. I think Bird's got a little more talented of an arm. I think he's a better thrower of the football from what I've seen. Again, it's been in a pretty limited sample size, but the actual arm talent's a little better for Bird. Devin Dampier has way more experience, way and proven ability to get it done. But Bird, a ton of raw talent. I kind of see this game. I'm just going to throw this out there. I see it being a high scoring game. I mean, we're going to need to throw the ball to win this game. I'm going to go ahead and call it 35-21 for Utah. And I think, honestly, I think it's that score, whether Bird or Devin Dampier is the quarterback for Utah. So 35-21. I think either quarterback will do a really good job. And I'll even push it a little. I'll go ahead and say 38-21. I think Utah should have a pretty good win here. I think that's how this game goes. I think there's some caveats that I'll give you. I think if we struggle to get a pass rush back there against a very good pass blocking offensive line in Colorado, that could be a big factor. If our DBs start to struggle a bit against these receivers, that could be a problem. If they somehow run the ball a lot better on us than I expect to, that could be a problem. And then on offense for Utah, if we're not able to run the ball at all, if they're really like shutting down our rushing offense, that'll be a bad sign, especially if Devin's the quarterback. That'll be a pretty bad sign. Um, but outside of that, I really don't expect any of that to happen. I think 38-21, whether it's Bird or Devin, I think we get a dominant win here at Colorado. I think it's a good one, and I'm super excited, guys. I think Colorado's at Utah. Misspoke there. Yeah, it's at Rice Eccles Stadium. So I think we get a dominant win here. And, I would say this. I know a lot of people are really heartbroken after the BYU win. If we beat Colorado, guys, we're 6-2, and then we go into a really good matchup against Cincinnati, really intense. And then, if we can pull that off, we're 7-2. A ton to look forward to on the season, guys. Do not feel downtrodden yet. There's still a lot of football left to play and a lot of good to be had for Utah. So let's just keep winning, 1-0 every week, and a lot of good will come our way. I know I rambled a bit there, but like the video, comment down below, subscribe. I'm out of here, and go Utes.
Fight!